Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar, and today I want to talk about our nervous system and share a very recent story of what mine was trying to tell me, actually. First of all, Happy New Year. By the time this comes out, it's going to be the 2nd of January, and I am recording this in the middle of October. That's why if you see some additional lights in the background on YouTube, it's because I'm just trying to enjoy the season as best as I can. And it's also starting to get chilly, so I am fighting the urge to turn on our heat pump until it really starts getting cold, and so it is time to drape myself in a blanket. Now, when we are talking about our nervous system, I have mentioned many times in the past about the value of listening to our bodies and what our bodies are trying to tell us. And the reason for this, especially considering there are many groups and people out there that say that we're not supposed to trust our bodies, we're supposed to trust our minds, can sometimes mean we're not exactly the best at cluing into what our bodies, specifically our nervous system, are trying to tell us. This last week, I experienced an emotional roller coaster that I did not expect to have. There was a little family drama, and once that was resolved, I had to power through the last day of work, though I did get to spend some time with friends. And then by the end of the day, Friday, I was just exhausted. There is something going on right now that is pretty important to some of my friends. And that is, at this point, the Seattle Mariners are in the championship for their league. Last Friday was the final of a 5-game series against the Detroit Tigers. Our friends, Brandon and Katie, were hosting our friend Ben, and I had made a comment while I was having brunch with Brandon that, this is something that's pretty important to you guys. You're pretty excited about it all. I have not been afraid to mention how unenthusiastic I am about watching sports. But I am trying to take more of an interest in what is interesting to my friends. And so I threw out the idea that, hey, if you guys are getting together for what was effectively the do or die of the postseason series, Libby and I would probably enjoy coming over and hanging out with you guys. After everything that happened on that Thursday and Friday, I'm like, probably one of the best things to help me is going to be just spending some time with friends. And they were in agreement. They had us come over. They provided some pizza and snacks. I brought my Steam Deck and my computer so I could entertain myself with my games while Libby was doing some work and our friends were watching the game. And it was quite the game. It went into extra innings, and they didn't finish until the 15th inning. And they got to the point where they were bringing out starting pitchers in order to pitch relief, just to, as my friend said, it was turning into a battle of the pitchers to try and shut out the other team. It was very interesting as someone who is so disconnected from this kind of group and culture to watch my friends and their many superstitions. My friend Ben, he and I were talking yesterday, and he admits he has some superstitions. All of them are based on what he does before the game begins. And then what I observed was my friend Brandon having a lot of during game superstitions. The very first postseason game, they had the privilege of going to it since it was taking place at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, and they made a whirlwind of a day-long trip to drive up, attend the game, and come back all in the same day, and they loved it. What was very entertaining is at one point, Ben stepped away to go use the bathroom, and one of the Mariners hit a home run. It was like 1 or 2 innings later. Katie had to get up and go to the bathroom, and while she was away, I think it was the same player, hit another home run. This turned into a during the game superstition where when the score was tied for so long, they were getting close to the 9th inning, and Brandon is saying, "Hey, Ben, go to the bathroom." Ben's like, "I don't have to go to the bathroom." "Ben, just go to the bathroom." "No, I don't want to miss anything." "Katie, go to the bathroom." Because that what happened at the first postseason game. And so it was very entertaining. Libby and I were talking on Discord and messaging each other and just poking some fun at all of these superstitions and laughing at the prospect that, okay, we're here now, we might do something that turns into a superstition, and just how funny that would be because we're so disconnected from all of this. However, as the game got into extra innings, I started to see a lot more nervous energy from Ben and Brandon and a little bit from Katie. In fact, as I was talking with Ben yesterday and kind of sharing this experience, we came to the realization that the final game of the postseason was probably one of the worst games that we could have joined these three for, just because the stakes are so high and it's so stressful. All that being said, didn't even cross my mind. What I had realized after a while, as they're going into extra innings, and it's just back and forth. Maybe someone gets on base. Maybe a team doesn't. Someone's in scoring position. Oh my gosh, it's the opposing team. Oh, thank goodness it's the Mariners. And they're just constantly leaving someone on, or they're constantly striking out, or, just getting out in general. And I really noticed how my heart was racing. I felt it just beating so fast in my chest. And I'm like, oh, that's not a good thing. That's not what I need right now. That's not what I came here for. And as Libby and I were processing this on the way home, we left during the 12th inning, and they didn't wrap up until the 15th inning. I think I may have made some connections as to why I'm just not that big of a sports fan in general. And that has to come down to my empathy. Well, it does come down to my empathy. I was receiving, and my body was taking in so much nervous energy from Ben and Brandon, and even a little bit from Katie, as this stalemate just kept going back and forth between these two teams. And I came to a realization that if I am unable to either block that kind of nervous stimulus or nervous energy from entering into my body, or I find some way to let it in my body and then release it, I don't think I'm really ever going to be a sports fan. Now, Ben jokingly pointed out that if I just really got into the game and I clapped and I cheered and I jumped up and everything like that, that would definitely be a way to let out this nervous energy. If only I cared about what was going on in that moment. I just wanted to spend some time with friends. So, this is something that my body was telling me. Hey, this is not the ideal environment for you. And I'm not saying this to throw any shade or shame at my friends. It's just with the roller coaster of emotions that I had experienced over a not even 24-hour period. I really needed something that was calmer and was going to serve the hypersensitivity of my nervous system better. And after a while, it's like, I think it's about time that I went home. And Libby was in total agreement. We didn't want to, if the game actually ended during the ninth inning, then we would have just left when the game ended. But it just kept going, and we didn't know how long it was going to keep going. And so Libby and I left, and thankfully the following day I was able to just rest, and Libby and I had some fun together. We did go for a walk with Odin, and we did a lot of things that were just generally needed for our own self-care. And this is important to me because I used to be so clueless about what my body and my nervous system was trying to tell me that the fact that I noticed, I'm getting very nervous right now. I am not in a good place at this moment. Recognizing that, and therefore knowing that I needed to do something different and that I could take appropriate action in order to help myself, that is a skill that I had to learn. And one of the things that I find kind of interesting whenever I ponder this is I have actually learned a lot about regulating my nervous system through Odin, because he's a very anxious dog. He's very nervous. He's very submissive. And when we take him for walks, he gets genuinely startled by buses and trucks, motorcycles, things that will make some loud noises. They are things that he does not exactly agree with. And I totally get that. And one of the things, as I was kind of researching about how to help dogs with anxiety, I learned that if you observe animals, they actually do a pretty good job instinctively of releasing the stress and the anxiety that they have. Whenever a scary vehicle passes by Odin, one of the things that we can do is we take him away from the stimulus. If we're walking on the sidewalk, then it's like step into a park, or just continue walking and get some distance between him and whatever the vehicle was, and eventually he will just shake. That is a way that he gets that kind of stress out of his body. When he is really excited and he cannot contain himself, he yawns a lot. And these are methods of releasing the stress that is building up in our bodies. And I had realized with the high intensity interval training exercises that I do with Ben 2 or 3 times a week, I noticed that it's as early as finishing the first rep. It's finishing the first reps of an exercise, and we're having a little break between that I start yawning. I used to just think that was because I was tired, because I'm always tired. And then it really struck me. It's like, no. Actually, I'm probably releasing stress from my body. Besides just the physical movement, which is a great way to get rid of that stress, yawning does the same thing. And I will reiterate, I was totally clueless about all of this. Totally clueless. For years, I was told not to trust my body. For years, I was told, don't be afraid of this, don't be afraid of that, it's not that big of a deal, while my body and my nervous system was like, this really sucks right now, I don't like it. Which brings me to what I find as a big talking point for many of the clients that I work with, is cluing into what our body's trying to tell us. I was among friends. There was some good food. I was playing video games that I absolutely enjoy. And I was even sitting away from the couch where all of this was taking place at. I was at the dining room table because that was the nice and convenient place for my laptop to be set up. And I noticed that my heart was racing. I was on the verge of an F response. I was in the fight or flight mode. I was almost in the fight or flight mode. My fear response was kicking in. And when I realized that, I was able to talk with Libby about it. We were able to leave, and we were able to change the environment and do something different. Actually, give my body some rest. Because by the time we left, it was like 10:30 at night. I was tired. We went home, rescued Odin from his kennel, because heaven forbid he should spend several hours in a kennel away from us. But we got him out and spent some time with him, and eventually it's like, okay, we're just going to bed. And I slept. Because that was what I needed. I needed rest. Yeah, I did have fun. Don't get me wrong. I had fun spending that time with our friends. When their stress started to have a negative impact on my nervous system, that's when I knew something needed to change. That is when I knew that I needed something different. That the activity that I was engaging with, the people that I was around, was actually not helping in that situation. And so, it is important for us to listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us, because they can give us a lot of information that maybe, if you're like me, you didn't really learn how to listen to these. You didn't really learn about this information. You were maybe taught, like I was, from parents, from teachers, from siblings, from friends, from spiritual leaders, pastors, priests, ministers, that you just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The information you are receiving is incorrect. Trust my words. However, we are receiving these messages for a reason. In fact, what led to this was some information that my nephew had received from his nervous system that he then talked with his dad about, And his dad got in touch with me. We talked about this family situation, and what he had experienced was something that a 13-year-old should not have experienced. It was not something that he should have gone through. Now, he did a pretty damn good job of handling it because my brother and his wife have done an immense amount of work to get him to understand that they are safe people for him to turn to. I have tried to do the same thing with him. And after having this conversation, he and I ended up connecting for like 20 to 30 minutes and just kind of talked some things over because he was still very anxious. His nervous system was telling him something isn't right here. He did some research into the stories that he was receiving and found some, what was determined, glaring inconsistencies. And he was able to do something about it. And I'm so thankful that he listened to his body. I am so thankful I have learned how to listen to my own body. It is a very necessary skill for us to navigate this world and this society, because our brains can get so stuck in overthinking and overanalyzing to make sure something is true when we have just thousands and thousands, millions of years even, of collective knowledge that has helped us to survive and get where we are today. Your nervous system has helped you get where you are today. Whether you have listened to it or not, it has helped you get where you are today. It is a very valuable tool. It is a valuable resource. It is a valuable alarm to let us know when something isn't quite right, when something is not adding up. I want to encourage you to listen to what your body's trying to tell you. Another example that's been happening a lot recently, this has almost been Marcus from 2024 or 2025 really, is having an inability to relax. I cannot tell you how many times I have been lying in bed and I am trying to fall asleep, and then I recognize like maybe I've got my arms kind of, crossed, or I'm cuddling with something, or I just got them resting on my chest or my stomach or something like that, that I have to intentionally tell like my hands and my arms, okay, relax. You're holding a lot of tension right now. Just relax. And so I will relax those muscles. And then within 30 seconds, I notice they're tense again. Okay, relax, body, just relax. And it would happen over and over again. That is my body trying to tell me something. There is something that is bothering it that needs to be dealt with. And thankfully, in these instances, I was able to actually fall asleep. But I was struggling to do so because of all of that tension that I was holding. I was struggling to be present and enjoy the time that I was having with friends because my heart was racing and I was on the verge of having a fight or a flight response just because of the nervous energy, and I didn't know what to do with it. If you're feeling tension in your body, that is a place that you're holding stress. For me, it is my jaws. Oh, I can have the most tense jaws because I like to clench whenever I get nervous. I clench my jaw muscles. I also hold a lot in my shoulders. Now, hopefully you're not to the point like I am, where in the 15 years Libby and I have been married, I cannot tell you how many times Libby will come over and she'll start to rub my shoulders, and she's like, wow, you're really tense. Do you feel that? And I'm like, no, I do not feel that, because that has become so normal for me that I don't even know what it's like to live with that kind of, I don't know, relaxed and just at ease shoulders, because I'm constantly holding so much back there. These are ways that our body is trying to tell us something. And it's important that we listen to it. So listen to what your body's trying to tell you. Listen to where your nervous system is not exactly matching the situation that you're in. If you're meeting with a friend or a family member and you may be laughing or something like that, but you also recognize that you're specifically sitting in such a position that you have eyes on the exit, that's telling you something. If you find yourself getting really fidgety and you just can't stop like bouncing your knees or something like that, or you're finding yourself just wanting to grab your phone and like lose yourself in some scrolling or playing a game or something like that, that is your body trying to tell you something. Something is not matching up correctly with the environment that you're in. So I do implore you to please listen to your body. Your nervous system is giving you so much information throughout the day, and it's important that we listen to it. And notice I said we, because I'm still having to learn how to do this. I am still learning what it is to actually tune into the frequency of my body and figure out, what is it feeling? What is it trying to tell me? I hope you have found this enlightening. I hope it is. I hope it's something that can help you start off this new year right, and maybe just release some of the ick, the yuck, the tension, the stress from 2025. And if this is something that you would like some help with, then please feel free to get in touch with me. I am a life and recovery coach. I am happy to create a space where we can talk about and process and just provide a different perspective to what is going on in the world around you. And kind of like what happened with my nephew, I do have some techniques that I have learned that can help us to navigate these troubling times and troubling waters and just the stressors that we are experiencing. If you're interested in that, take a look at the description below. You can set up a free hour-long call. You can send me some questions if there's something you don't understand or even something you want to push back on. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you again next week, where we'll have another hero study. And until then, live strong for today.